Hello everybody, my name is Liam Kilby. I am the Associate Director for the MBA Recruitment and Admissions team at the Saïd Business School in the University of Oxford. So we have a 2-year program that is called the 1+1. It's called the 1+1 because in essence it's 2 individual degrees. It's a 2-year program that consists of 2 one-year master's degrees. So the first year, the one part, is an MSc of your choice somewhere in the wider university. You do that for the 9 or the 12 months, however long your master's degree lasts, but it obviously no more than a year. And then in the second year, the +1 part, you come to the business school and you do the 1-year MBA. So 2 years in total, but 2 one-year degrees in between, with the 1-year MBA always at the end. It's always in that order. Your MSc of choice first, the MBA second. It gives candidates a chance to really take a kind of a very deep dive in that first year. So depending on which program you pick for that first year, you'll have a depth of knowledge that will make you come out of that year a graduate of an Oxford master's degree, but at the same time a real expert in your field. And whatever field that is, you have that real understanding of what that field needs to make it work. The second year gives you the breadth of knowledge that a generalist MBA will give you. And so while it's a similar length in terms of 2 years compared to a traditional MBA, the learning is much more targeted and quite narrow in the first year in a field that you've chosen for yourself. And then you supplement that with the broader learning that you have of fundamental business and how businesses and organizations function and work and are successful in the second year, so that you really get the best of both worlds. You come out as an expert in your field, but also with a skill set that allows you to operate in a very effective way in general business as well. There's quite a broad range. So for the benefit of the audience, in theory, you can do any master's degree you want to, and then come and do the MBA in the second year. Now, if that is outside of our list of official partner programs, you won't officially be a 1+1 student. You're still following the same pattern. You're doing a degree and then a second degree at the business school, but you won't really officially be in the 1+1 family because it has to be a partnering program that the university has decided goes with the MBA. So some examples of those: you might go to the Blavatnik School of Government and do a master's in public policy. You might go to the Oxford Internet Institute and do social science of the internet. There's some music master's degrees that you can do. There's modern languages that you can do. You can study law in the first year and then come and do the MBA in the second year. You can even do Russian literature. You can do Chinese history. There's a really broad range of MSCs in that first year. And some, as you would expect, are more popular than others. And some, if people are listening, might think, well, a master's in public policy, an MPP and an MBA go very well together, and it probably would be unsurprising to learn that that is the most popular option for most of our candidates. And then other people might think, well, I don't really understand why you would do maybe an MST in music and then do an MBA, but that path has been followed by some candidates over the past few years. And as long as the candidate has a rationale and a reason and has a career plan that makes sense and needs this type of journey, we're not there to question why people are choosing each partner program. But if it's an option there, then it's an option for you. And I would recommend that people kind of pick the one that they think is the best one, that's best suited for their development needs to get the career they're looking for. That's definitely the second year of the 1+1, and it's almost in the second half of the second year. So for the first semester, we have 3 academic semesters in each one of those years. So for the MBA year, your first semester is October through to the holidays, through to Christmas. And then semester 2 is January through to Easter. And then semester 3 is after Easter through to the summer break. The electives really start in the MBA year, kind of halfway through that second semester. So we're talking about maybe February time. Up until that point, everyone on the MBA is learning the same things, and that is the fundamentals of business. Things like accounting, things like financial analytics, marketing, organizational behavior, the real nuts and bolts of what you would expect an MBA to teach you. As soon as we get to February, And we've brought that date forward a little bit recently to allow people a bit more personalization and a bit more tailoring. You can start to build your own journey through the remainder of your time on the MBA. Everyone takes at least 10 electives, and this can really help you personalize your development, personalize your career goals. You can think, okay, well, I'm looking for this particular output in my career, and to get there, I need this particular skill set or knowledge base. And so these electives are the ones that I should be taking. And we can help you with that. We can guide you through kind of pathways that allow you to see, well, if I'm looking for maybe a role in investment banking, I should take this pathway out. If I'm looking for a role in consulting, I might take this pathway. And the final decision, of course, is each individual's, but we can recommend almost kind of a journey through the electives and a journey through the workshops that we have on offer that allow people to really get that personalized skill set. So electives is one way of doing that. You mentioned things like internships. That is an option either for the 1+1 in that middle summer between those two programs. You might think, well, I'm going to do a pre-MBA internship that allows me to get a foot in the door of a company that I'd like to work in once I've graduated, or maybe just some practical skills that will help enhance my resume and my CV. There's also an option at the end of the MBA year in the summer, after the third academic semester has finished, to either stay in school and do even more electives, or go and do an internship in industry somewhere that again allows you to maybe secure a role full-time in a company or a sector that you've been targeting for the 2 years that you've been with us. I think it's important to say that it's not for everybody. One, because it's a big commitment away from your career, 2 years versus just the 1 year MBA. That's quite a big difference. Two, because the MBA, often for what people are looking for, the MBA is enough. They're looking to maybe future-proof their career for maybe the next 10 to 15 years. Maybe they don't need the MBA for the next promotion, but they need the MBA for the promotion after that. And so they're getting that in now when life isn't in the way and they're able to take time out of their career. The 1+1 is probably somebody who is really targeting a very specific level of seniority and a very specific role. And what I mean by that is that, going back to what I was saying before about the depth of knowledge you gain from that first year doing a master's degree at Oxford, and then applying that knowledge in a broader sense with the MBA in the second year, it almost feels like these are the people that are sought for advice. If there was a news report on something that happened, some kind of global pandemic or some kind of like global political shift, it's almost like these are the people that are going to be the people that are interviewed on TV about it. They're going to be leaders in their field, like they're going to be experts in their field, and they've recognized that already, and recognize that the 1+1 is the journey that helps them get there. It provides a level almost of authenticity to your resume, to your CV, that you can be trusted to be such a highly regarded expert in your field in your future. And not everybody needs that for their career, and not everybody wants that for their career. So while there is a really long list of benefits of being in Oxford for 2 years and having 2 degrees from Oxford, I would encourage people who are thinking about it to think, is this something that I absolutely need? And therefore, is it worth the risk and reward of giving up 2 years of my life? Or can I do what I want to do with an MBA, and then the other learning can be experiential and happen on the job in my career as I get promoted in the future? It's very diverse. I would say that the commonality comes in the seniority that they often find. We may talk about specific examples later, but off the top of my head, we've got people that are working as kind of the head of ESG policy development at Barclays Bank. We've got people that are director of technologies at BNP Paribas in France. We've got people that are working at ministry level in governments. We've got people that are working kind of in large organizations like the UN, setting policy across different regions of the world. And so while the diversity is there in terms of sector and job role and function, there's definitely some uniformity in just how senior these people become. We've got people working in prime ministers and presidents' offices, in their cabinets, in their closely knit, trusted advisor team. It's a very senior group of people that, to an extent, were fairly senior on their way in too, but have certainly used this platform of the 1+1 to really think about, okay, well, this is going to springboard me into that kind of next level, that next echelon of seniority that I'm looking for in my career. But yeah, in terms of outputs and sectors, it's a very diverse group. I think, and it probably won't be a surprise to most people, I think one thing that the MBA on its own is very good at is networking and thinking about not just who do I meet in my classroom and my peers and my colleagues, but also faculty at the school, alumni of the program. And I think if you magnify that across a 2-year program, students that are doing the 1+1 will be an alum of their program, their MSc in the first year. They'll be an alum of the Oxford College they're a member of in their first year. They'll then become an alum of the business school in their second year. They may be in a different college in their second year, and so they'll become an alum of a second college. And if you start to add all of these networks together, the people that you meet along the way, the fact that the collegiate system of the University of Oxford opens doors to you to meet people outside of your discipline. So in your 9-to-5 working day, I'm sure you'll be having lessons with people that are quite similar to you. They're studying the same things, they're looking for the same outcomes, but in your college in the evening, and you're sitting down for dinner with the hundreds and thousands of other Oxford students that aren't studying the same thing as you, but they're eating in the same dining hall, and you strike up conversations with them, you start to really understand the benefit of how that future connection can actually come back and repay you and pay dividends in 10 to 15 years. And so I think it's really key for people that are thinking about any program at Oxford, but specifically the 1+1, to build in time, which is easier said than done sometimes, but to build in time that allows you to think about who can I meet, who can I network with, how can I grow my group of collaborators and future colleagues and future partners and co-founders sometimes. How can I do that now so that in 10 to 15 years when I need them, when I can leverage them, that actually they're there to be leveraged in the first place. There are a lot of career events, and some people will ask my team or me the question, well, if I'm in the 1+1, Liam, does that mean that in my first year, I'm not really in the business school because I'm not doing the MBA until year 2? And the answer is no. As a member of the 1+1 community, you're invited to all of the events that are happening at the business school. So any career events that are happening for the current MBA class, even if you're on your MSc, they're open to you. The networking events that come in, the companies that come and visit the campus and talk to the students about hiring opportunities and what they're focusing on in their sector at this time, they're all open to the students. For some of the 1+1 students that receive a scholarship, there is one scholarship available only to Pershing Square students, and that is the Pershing Square Scholarship. Those scholars will go on a trek every year with other alumni groups of the Pershing Square scheme. So you'll be going on a trek to New York, where you'll meet with industry leaders, you'll meet with the Pershing Square Foundation that have funded the scholarship, and you'll be meeting with other Pershing Square scholars from previous years. So that's another further network and community that you can build for yourself. We normally award something around 5 to 6 Pershing Square scholarships each year, and as those years pass by, that obviously alumni network is growing, and that's another opportunity for people to think, okay, how can I build some collaborations now that will repay me in the future? I mentioned before about head of ESG at Barclays. We had a lady come in, Sophie did the 1+1, she did the MPP, Masters in Public Policy, had worked at the UK Treasury before for the UK government, came in to do the MPP and the MBA, and now is Director of ESG Policy Decision Making at Barclays. We had a guy called Gio. Gio graduated about 6 or 7 years ago now, worked at the UN to begin with, came in, did the MSc in Comparative Social Policy, and then he's the guy that's now working as the Director of Technology Intelligence at BNP Paribas. And then there was a lady from Africa, Biongo. She graduated maybe 3 or 4 years ago. She was Economics for Development in terms of her MSc. She worked at the UN before she joined, like Gio, she worked at the UN. Also worked with some kind of ministry at the South African national government level. and is now a senior climate change economist for a development bank in South Africa. So it's that kind of profile that we're talking about. We had a guy work in President Trudeau's office in Canada. It's that level of seniority that I was alluding to before that really kind of this program will open the door to. And all these people are relatively young in real terms. You know, Sophie was maybe in her early 30s when she graduated. Gio was about 30 years old. Biongo was about 30 years old. And so these people are securing very senior roles at a very kind of early stage of their career in terms of some of their peers, maybe across that C-suite might be a little bit older than they are. And I think the 1+1 program has been a real benefit to be able to let them do that. It's really kind of accelerated their career in a way that for these people, maybe the MBA on its own may not have done. And they've really benefited from that springboard, that kind of launch pad that the 1+1 can be. I think my biggest piece of advice is probably understand the application process and the application timelines as well as you can, because even though you do the MSc first and the MBA second, you're applying to both of those programs actually at the same time, or at least in the same academic cycle. So you might not be using the same deadline for each application. We have a range of deadlines at the business school that you'll have to apply for or apply by in time. The departments will have a different range of application deadlines. So it might be, for example, you apply to the MSc in a November deadline and you apply to the MBA in a January deadline, and you give yourself time to do one first and then the other. Because some people will try and submit both applications to both departments on the same deadline, and that is a large piece of work because it's two separate applications. You need to write different essays for both. You'll probably need to get different references for both. Both of them look at very different things. An MSc at the University of Oxford is very academic in terms of what they're looking for. They're looking for good undergraduate degree performance. They're looking at evidence of your academic excellence. For the MPP, the Masters in Public Policy, for example, part of your application to them will include you writing a policy paper as part of your application. So it's quite an academic, quite a theoretical, quite a wordy, for want of a better word, application. And the application to the MBA is a lot more about employment history, your work experience, your career transition, how many years of work experience do you have and how have you developed over that time? And a lot of that story is told really by your resume and by your CV. At least you can reference to it quite easily. So they're quite different applications, and to do both at the same time, as well as, you know, nail down a full-time job and look after whatever family commitments you have and whatever personal life you might want to have in the meantime, that can be a very big undertaking. So I think my biggest piece of advice is really understand what the application process is asking of you and maybe how long that will take, because some people will go and think, I'll just get both done, I'll get out of the way, but actually because of that, the quality of each of those applications suffers a little bit because you haven't really been able to focus enough of your time on either one of them. Whereas if you'd staggered your applications within successive deadlines rather than both at the same deadline, you may have come out with a slightly better outcome. These are very tough programs to get into. Getting into a master's degree at Oxford is hard. Getting into 2 master's degrees at Oxford in the same year is very hard. You want to make sure you give yourself the best opportunity by giving yourself enough time to think, okay, this is the best version of this application that I can do. I'll submit this one now, and then I'll start on the next one next, because I can't do both at the same time.